Today on the Play It Brave podcast, we have my dear friend Jen Gottlieb, who is a PR ninja. She's here to help you get more visible and get your story and your platform seen. Jen is the co-founder and chief mindset operator at Super Connector Media. She also runs an event called Unfair Advantage with her partner, Chris. And not only that, but her true goal is to give you the tools to share your authentic self with more people to spread your message of love, your art, your story, your craft, your business, all of those things. She speaks on stages across the world. And not only that, but she is such a truly inspirational woman living her dream life, being grateful every step of the way. And she's got some big things to teach you on the podcast today.
You're listening to the Play It Brave podcast. Join Darcy for a wild rummage around in her wit and wisdom. She's a photographer, an educator, and a marketing ninja. Each week, she's going to be teaching you all about creating a life full of mindset, money, and marketing miracles. Listen to real-world experiences and surefire strategies from expert guests, all to keep you focused on your path to success. Think less hand-holding or fist bumps. So stop playing safe. It's time to start playing it brave. Here's your host, Darcy Benincosa.
We are here on the Play It Brave podcast today with my beautiful friend, Jen Gottlieb, who I met in a mastermind at the beginning of this year. And you have been one of the people to, I think, have one of the major influences of my life this year. Seeing your story, seeing who you are, seeing how you show up, how you play it brave every single day has deeply affected a lot of what I've taken into my life. So we're so happy to have you on the podcast today.
Darcy, that was the most beautiful intro. I have goosebumps everywhere because every single thing that you were just saying, I feel the exact same way about you. I really genuinely, and you were the gift that was given to me from joining this mastermind. And I'm so grateful and so excited to be here on your podcast.
I'm so excited to have you. One of the things that you do so well as entrepreneurs listening to this is you, one, not only help people shine, but you help people truly break into becoming more of their authentic selves. And that's the whole goal that we want to talk about today on the podcast, is how you have become this person. So can you tell us a little bit about your history, what you do, who you are, all those good things?
I like to tell people that I've lived many lives, because if you backstalk me on the Google or on the Facebook or wherever you want to check me out, you'll see that I've done a whole bunch of different things that, in hindsight, if you were connecting, like you say, we love this quote, the Steve Jobs quote, you can't connect the dots looking forwards, you can only connect them looking backwards. And if I were looking forwards, I would have absolutely no idea how all of these weird things in my life would connect to where I am right now. But looking backwards, it completely makes sense. So I moved to New York City I dropped out of college and moved to New York City to study musical theater because I wanted to be a Broadway actress. And right out of school, I did the Broadway national tour of The Wedding Singer, which is the Adam Sandler movie. The Wedding Singer, I played my dream role in that show. I ended up actually using the law of attraction. It was my first experience ever with like any kind of like quote unquote manifesting or woo-woo things. And I just decided to check it out and do an experiment, and ended up, it worked, and manifested this role. And after that happened, it just solidified this idea in me that anything that I wanted to create, I could, just by fully believing that I already had it and that it already existed. And by using just visualization and belief to create what I wanted. So after that, I started to just manifest other things. And from there, I ended up getting booked on a TV show on VH1 that was about hard rock and heavy metal music called That Metal Show. And I was like, the rocker chick for 14 seasons on VH1, which it ended up being a really successful show in a very niche, with a niche audience. So, and if you like heavy metal music, I'm sure you've heard of it because it was the only show out there about heavy metal. And I was like the Vanna White of the heavy metal world, which was an amazing gig. It was incredible and so much fun. And I'm so grateful for every second of it, but it couldn't have been more inauthentic to who I really was.
What were signs that it was inauthentic? You just felt weird going to work, or you just, every time you were at work, you just thought, I'm meant for more, I'm meant for something different? What did you think?
I always felt really grateful and felt really awesome doing it because it was super fun. I mean, I got to meet all these famous rock stars and I got to be on camera, which is my favorite thing in the world, being on stage and on camera. And that's where I, thrive, and where I feel like, time stops when I'm on stage or in front of the camera. But it wasn't scripted. So I wasn't playing a character. I was myself. I was Jennifer, but I was like this Jennifer. They called me Jennifer on the show. Now I go by Jen because that's more me. I was this Jennifer that wore like leather pants and ripped up metal shirts and huge hair, and like pretended that I really liked heavy metal music and was in this world when I couldn't have been further from who I was. So when you start to become a little bit mini famous, I like to tell people I was like not even a D-list. I was like an E-list celebrity at the time. I was a little famous, but I was famous for something that wasn't me. And so I was showing up on the internet, and social media just started to like get kind of to become a thing at that time. And it was just completely inauthentic. And I was like, I felt like I needed to be this person, this super sexy rocker chick, in order for people to love me or to get attention or to be successful. And I was just living inauthentically to who I was for a really long time in the public eye.
It's funny how I think so many of us feel that there is something about who we are that isn't lovable. So we kind of try to morph in. I think maybe that's what our 20s are for. I feel like I tried on a lot of different personalities, and maybe it's because you and I love acting that we're like, is this who I am? Wait, is this who I am? Wait, is this who I am? Because there's so much to finding the core of who you are, and then trying to figure out how to put that out there. So after you left VH1, when did you start truly feeling like you were stepping into your authentic self?
Well, during that time, during the VH1 time, I had a relationship that I was in that was a really toxic relationship, and it ended up completely collapsing, as toxic relationships tend to do. And I feel like my inner self came out and saved me. I subconsciously completely sabotaged that relationship because I didn't have the balls to leave. So I went from being in this relationship that I thought I was going to marry this guy and everything was going to be amazing, to all of a sudden being on my own in like a tiny apartment with a window that faced a wall and $500 in my hand. And like, no, I was like, okay, I have this TV show, but what else do I do? Right?
Yeah.
Like the life of an actress. And so I needed to build up a life from scratch. And I love that you said, like, is this me? Is this me? You have to try on all these different hats. And I always wanted to get into fitness and personal training because I was into that. And I thought, wow, that would be a great gig to be able to be to do while I was acting, because it was flexible but it was still a great job. It wasn't like waiting tables or babysitting. It was something that would be fulfilling. So during that time, I started to inch into something that was more in alignment with who I was, like helping people, and it felt really good. And being an entrepreneur, because with my personal training business, I ended up creating an actual business and I was at a gym, working for a gym, and I was like, screw this, I'm going to create a business. And I got this entrepreneurial bug, and I started realizing more and more who I really was. Like, oh, I'm a businesswoman. I'm an entrepreneur. I love helping people. And it's like finding who you are along the way. So I was still doing this show that was totally not me. And the more that I explored who I really was, the more I realized that the show was really not me. But it came to a point when a tipping point, really, when the show got canceled and I had to completely, totally step into the real me.
Yeah.
And that was like, I didn't have this clutch anymore of this like sexy girl with all the makeup on the mask. Like that was my clutch. I could hide behind that. I had to completely let go of it and decide who I was, and decide that I was just going to be me, messy, imperfect, not super sexy and airbrushed, and not like, rock and roll VH1, and just who I was. And that wasn't easy. I had to do a lot of work in order to do that. And so I dived deep into personal development. And the more that I did that, the more the more that I followed, I like to tell people, like, I followed my bliss. So I only did things that felt good. Anything that didn't feel completely in alignment and completely yummy and like really, really blissful, I wouldn't do. So the more that I followed that, the more that I dived into personal development, the more that my career kind of just on its own shifted into more and more what it was supposed to be. So it went from personal training to mindset coaching, to, you know, to from in person to online and virtual. Like it kept shifting the more that I followed like my bliss, the more that I followed what felt good, and the more that I followed this perfect life that I tell people to do a perfect day exercise, like visualize what your perfect day would be if the universe could just give you every single thing that you wanted. And I had this visualization of what it would be. And so I made decisions based on that perfect day, and it would continue to morph and morph and morph. And the more that happened, the more I would come into my true self. And the more you come into your true self, the more you attract things that are in alignment with your true self.
It is
right?
true. It is true. And so now you're at, I can't wait. We're going to have a big reveal later of like a dream that you told me at the beginning of this year, and you just barely told me that it came true. But before we get to that part, so what do you do now? Like, where are you at now? Where is this space where you've landed after all those years of going through? And I think people don't realize that it can sometimes take a few years to go through different things, try them, see which one is feeling the most, like you said, like that perfect day. Like I love that activity. All of you go do that. I was just like, ooh, I'm going to journal that today because I think I know what it is, but sometimes I don't push myself as far as I think. No, truly, what would that perfect day look like? Would you be, running a TV show, a top-rated podcast, or would you be just more chill at home? Like, what would it look like? That helps you decide a lot of your values and a lot of the things that you but want to be focusing on. So now to this day, we come to present day, Jen. Where are you at right now? And what is your joy and bliss in helping others?
So part of my perfect day that I used to do ages ago, it involved falling in love, and it involved actually going into business and creating something with my partner. And I did that because I kept following that, and there's a whole long story of how I manifested Chris, my business partner, and my life partner. But together we now run events in New York City called Unfair Advantage Live, where we connect entrepreneurs to the media. And we also have a PR agency called Super Connector Media, where we do PR much differently. And I feel like you really can connect the dots looking backwards. So all of my gifts and all of the weird shit that I've done, sorry if I can't curse on your podcast, but all the weird shit that I've done in my life, all has completely come together because now I get to be on stage at my events. I get to help people, which was one of the things that I love to do. I get to help people shine. And so using my background in entertainment and television, I get to help get people on TV, people with amazing messages that are doing incredible things in the world, and help them, figure out the mindset piece, like really why they're worthy to step up onto a bigger stage and be on TV and talk about what they do and be in the media and be the thought leader in their industry. And, it's just so cool how it all really came together, and I get to do this with, like, if you really look into it, two of my best friends work for our team, and I get to do it with the love of my life, which is pretty cool.
And I think that a lot of entrepreneurs, especially ones just starting out, getting out there, they don't realize the positive role of having someone so skilled in PR to have your back. Like, we talk so much about how networking is so important and how it's important about who you know, and some people can get overwhelmed with that. But the beauty is you get to work with people that you love, whose messages you believe in, and you and Chris have worked so hard to create such a strong network of good people, of people who are living their passion and purpose, people who are, the TV networks, you get people on all these shows. Every time I'm looking at your social media, you're shining the light on one of your clients and then being on a TV platform, or getting a great article published on a big platform online. And it's just, I don't think people know that that is still a main thing. I mean, once you get up to a certain level of entrepreneur, that, but I think starting entrepreneurs think sometimes they have to do it all themselves, all alone, all the time. And
Yeah, and it can be pretty daunting. And I was just talking to somebody today and they were like, I just don't know how to break in. And we call this feeling FOMO. And it's not the type of FOMO that you feel when you see all your friends are at a party on Instagram or something and you couldn't make it, so you feel FOMO. This kind of FOMO is the kind of FOMO where you are flipping through social media, like you're scrolling, or you're turning on the TV and you see somebody that does the same thing as you, and or a little bit different, or one of your colleagues or one of your friends, and they're the ones being featured in the media, and they're the ones that are like on TV or getting written up in articles, and you're like, first of all, how did they get that? And you're totally clueless. You're like, how does that even happen?
Yeah.
How does one get on TV?
Yeah.
Right? Have you ever heard yourself asking that? Like, how did
Yeah.
they get that? Or even going further, that should be me. And feeling that feeling of like, oh my God, that should be me. I'm just as good as them. And we like to tell people that if you're really good at what you do, and I know if you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening to Darcy, you're really fucking good at what you do because you found one of the best people in the world to learn from. So you've got to be really good at what you do. So it's your responsibility to let people know that you exist. Because if you don't, then they're going to go hire somebody else and give somebody else their money that doesn't care as much as you and isn't necessarily as good as you. So it's your responsibility to start putting yourself out there and talking about what you do, but people don't even know how to break in.
Yeah.
So we help people do that. We help people break in, but most importantly, we help people realize that the true unfair advantage, no pun intended, when it comes to getting in the media or getting yourself out there or sharing your message is connection and relationships.
Yep.
It's not cold pitching. It's not sending email. It's not sending DMs. It's actually figuring out how you can serve other human beings and help them and create authentic, real, human to human connections. Because when you have real connections, those are long game. That's long game equity. That's something that you own, and they're always looking to help you, and you're always looking to help them. And that's how the majority of our clients, believe it or not, like they come to our events and they meet media in person because we have this amazing media mixer where we have over 120 of the top media people in the country come and just like have a party with the people that come to our event and make relationships. And they take those relationships and leverage them and end up getting so much media because those producers and those editors remember a great conversation they had with the entrepreneur about their kids or about dogs or about something super fun. And then they just call them like, hey, I remembered you from when I met you, and would you like to be on my show? I'm doing this great segment that I think you'd be awesome for. And that is the path to least resistance, making authentic relationships. And that's how we're doing PR differently at Super Connector Media.
Well, I've heard so many good things about your event, and I'm definitely going next year. I've heard people get book deals, TV, spots, everything, and just saying it's one of the most pivotal changes that they've ever made in their business was attending your event because you have brought together a room full of people who understand the power of relationships. So I want to dive in and spend the last part of this podcast really talking about our authentic selves. You worked so hard to get to your own space of authenticity, to hold that higher dream of what your dream life would look like. And I think that you are so good at helping people connect to their authentic selves. But I think most people get afraid, or they see somebody else on social media and they think I have to do what they're doing, or I need to sound like them or look like them or post photos that are like theirs. And that's when they feel like they're hitting a wall because they just think, why isn't this landing? Why am I not making connections? Why is nobody commenting on my posts? What's your take about that, about becoming authentic, getting a message that resonates with people? What are your thoughts?
Darcy, I love this topic so much because this was one of my biggest challenges in my life. And I really struggled, and it's scary. So I would say like 2 years ago, I never posted anything on Facebook, like nothing. Absolutely nothing, because I was so stuck because I didn't know what to write because I was worried about what other people would think of me. And then I would look at what other people were writing, what other people were posting, and I'd be like, oh my God, it needs to look like that. Or it needs to be, my photos need to be like the lighting needs to look like hers, and my apartment needs to look super clean, and right, it like needs to look bright, and my writing needs to say these things. And I would get so caught up in what other people were doing and what other people would think of my post that I would not write anything, and it would keep me stuck, right? Or I would write something or post something that was like somebody else's, and it would get absolutely no engagement because it had nothing. It wasn't me. So the truth is that people don't like perfect. We don't like, I mean, I don't like, it just makes me angry to look at somebody that's super perfect. I like looking at people that I can relate to. Oh my God, she's got the same issue as me. She goes through that too. That's so cool. I love her. You know, like that, we think that we need to come off perfect for people to like us, but really deep down, if you're listening to this, ask yourself, do I like looking at perfect people? No, we don't like looking at perfect people. We like working with and connecting with people that we can relate to.
Right.
And the thing that makes us relatable and makes us different, like there are a ton of photographers out there. There's a ton of coaches out there. There's a ton of doctors out there. But what makes you different is you, is the imperfections, the things that are different about you, the things that you would think are messy, that you don't want people to know about, that are, you know, a little bit off. But those are the things that make you special and make you different from everybody else. Those are your superpowers. And if you can harness your mess as your message or your imperfections as your superpowers, there's never going to be anybody else out there like you. And you're going to find so many more people that only resonate with you, and they will become super fans because there is no other Darcy out there. There is no other Jen out there, because I resonate with her because she struggles with the same thing that I struggle with.
Yeah.
So not only are you helping people on such a deeper level because they're relating to you on like something that's like heart to heart, but you're also making lifelong fans instead of just double click like because your picture is pretty. Right? Yes, you want to have beautiful pictures. Darcy, you have the most beautiful pictures on the internet, but that's because that's what you're like amazing at. That's your business. You're a photographer. But like, you also have vulnerable posts that, you know, only you can write. And like, so one thing I want to give your listeners something to walk away with, like one way that helped me start writing when I felt like I couldn't, right? I never wrote anything on Facebook or Instagram, was thinking about each time I wrote a post, who is one person that I'm talking to and that I'm helping right now? And I would just think about helping one person. Help one person every day. Yeah. Who is this person and what do they need to hear right now? And sometimes I would even think, what would I have heard? Like me 5 years ago, what would I have needed to read to like motivate me or tell me that everything would have been okay, or, you know, a lesson that I needed to learn. And then just focus on helping that one person with that post. And if you do that, you completely take your ego out of it. So it becomes a hell of a lot less scary. It doesn't have anything to do with you anymore. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks, because all you're doing is focusing on helping one other person. And it'll never come off braggy. It'll never come off markety because people are scared to do that. But if you focus on other people and helping and service, it'll never seem that way. So if you can set that mindset, you'll never be stuck.
It's so, so, so true. And I'm going back to this thing that you said where your mess is your message. And I love it. Do you have any stories of clients you've worked with that kind of illustrate that point? Like somebody who shared a big, because all of us are like, I can't share my biggest mess. Like that's too much. I'll just keep sharing how to shoot film or whatever. So is there somebody you've worked with where you're like, they faced the fear of a mess that they had and it changed the face of their business? Do you have any? Give us an example.
My favorite one is this woman, Jessie Johnson. She'd be happy if I highlighted her. She's an amazing sales coach. She coaches sales through spiritual practice. She's really, really cool. She has a 7-figure business. She's doing amazing. And at one of our Unfair Advantage Live events, she was doing a hot seat with Chris. And you know, she didn't know what her angle was or what her pitch was or what she could possibly talk about in the media. And Chris was like, what did you do before you were a sales coach? And she's like, well, I was a teacher. And when I was a teacher, I would teach spiritual practices to the kids. I would help them with meditation and with yoga. And he's like, that's cool. Does anybody know about that? She's like, no, I could never talk about that. I don't want anybody to know that I was a teacher. And he was like, why? That is your superpower.
Yeah.
That is what makes you different. She started talking about it. The second she started talking about it, Forbes featured her in an article that said how this teacher left the classroom to start a 7-figure coaching business.
Wow.
So they had an entire article all about her, and that was the kickstart of her entire, like, now she's been featured all over the place, and it really it like totally up leveled her career in every single way. So that's a great example.
It's so awesome because like we hear it and we're like, I love to hear it. Like for me, because I was a school teacher for 14 years, I'd be like, I want to hear about school teachers who changed their life, made it, did all these things. And so I think the things that seem messy and scariest to us and things that we think we might get rejected for, other people, you're right. Like other people will not see it that way. And so often we can fool ourselves in our minds of that one is too much, or that is too far, or that I can't really talk about. And you're right. That is our authentic self. Those messes that we've been through in the past, the things that we've struggled with, the things that we've overcome. Really, I mean, what else are we trying to do with our connections with people? But I think most of us are out there trying to just help each other, encourage each other, inspire each other, motivate each other, get through the day, all of those things. So that's perfect. So, okay. So when you post on Instagram, it's really about just that one person. Is that how you kind of handle things still to this day? Or because when I read your stories, they always hit me. So I must be your one person because every time I'm reading them, I'm like, oh, that's so true. Oh, that's so great. Even when you posted this one image it looked picture perfect. And you said, the reality behind this image is it took this many tries to get, I had to do this, we were having fun, but the perfection isn't, I love that you keep it very real, even when you're living your dream life. Have you struggled? This is a totally random off topic, but have you struggled with people feeling not happy for you or jealous or anything like that? Or do you not really bring that into your life because you've really surrounded yourself with high achieving people? I think a lot of people, when they're moving up the path to their own greatness, they can feel bad about people they're leaving behind, or people who might not have their best, say that they're happy for them, but then have those inner like, oh, but I want that. There's like such a fine line of celebrating people and then feeling bad if you don't have it. And I don't know, have you had any dealings with that?
Oh my God, Darcy, this is a thing. This has been a thing for the past 2 years that I've really had to explore and go through. The fact that as you grow, when you're growing fast and you're really on the fast track of growth and success, it's very, very, very important that you only surround yourself with people that support you, hold you, and celebrate with you. And you find, you'll probably relate to this, like the more you grow and the more you grow in mindset, the more you grow in your spirituality, the more the people from your life from beforehand aren't really in alignment anymore, and you just can't connect with them. And that's hard because I think we feel, I know at least for me, I felt like I just had to stay friends with my friends from back in the day. Like I owed it to them.
Yeah.
Like they're my friends from
Loyalty.
forever.
Yeah.
I've known them forever, even though we had nothing to talk about anymore. Even though like maybe there was some jealousy and they didn't want the best for me, or they didn't want to talk about anything that I had going on, and they didn't want to, and every single time I was with them, I felt really drained, but I felt like, no, I have to keep this relationship because I've known them for so long. And the second that I let go of that, and I really realized you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And I gave myself permission to say, okay, those relationships were so unbelievably important for me at that time in my life, but it is okay to let go of them and create space for new ones because I'm becoming a new person. And I only want to surround myself with people that I want to be like, that, the people that lift me up, people that I can lift up. Yeah. And so I've had to let go of a lot of relationships. And what that's done is freed me up with a lot of space to create new ones that are more in alignment with me as who I really am now. So throughout our lives, we collect friends. Sometimes if we're not showing up as our authentic selves, we're going to attract friends that are not in alignment with our authentic selves. So those are great friends for that point in time in our life. But then when we start to come more and more into who we truly are, those friends aren't going to necessarily be the types of people that we need to continue to stay hanging out with, because it's going to suck us back to that old belief system or those old patterns that you used to, be stuck in when you weren't necessarily living your true self.
Those old patterns are so hard. I'm going to say something very vulnerable, and I don't know if I've even said it to you, but that first night, so there was a big opening party when we all got to go meet each other, and I saw Jen, and you guys already see her, and Jen, I know this will totally embarrass you, but like I saw her and she just looked perfect. She has this perfect body. She is stunning. And I found high school Darcy returned for a minute, even though I'm a confident, beautiful woman in my own right. This high school voice of you can't be, like, you guys are not the same person. Like, you need to go find the nerds. She's the cool girl. Don't go talk to her. She will have nothing to say, to you. Like, I had to and I think you were actually one of the first people I approached, just because I had to challenge myself out of that thought. But like, so often we hold ourselves back from making friendships because we prejudge the person. And it was like, I immediately was like, no, I'm not. It was almost like I'm not good enough to be friends with her, which is such a weird thing. And people who are listening to this are probably like, Darcy, what are you talking about? You're the most confident person ever. But everyone deals with that kind of thing. It's so easy for us to cut ourselves off, to isolate ourselves, to convince ourselves that we are different, to convince ourselves we're not enough to talk to somebody because we may think they're prettier or better or make more money or have more whatever we're thinking. And it's like that, I think you and I, as two women in this business, in being entrepreneurs, in taking big risks, like, that's the deep one. Your authentic self has to know that you are worth it, that it has to have that self-love, that even in times like that, because imagine if I didn't talk to you, like within 30 minutes of talking to you, and I have to give you props, you made me feel, and I might cry, like, you made me feel so valuable, so seen. You were so interested in my life. We started bonding about Broadway immediately, and you were just like, I think you're the person I'm here to meet. Like, you really said that, like within 30, and I was like, oh my gosh. And all that old judgment fell away. And I just realized that judgment comes from that wounded child that we sometimes still always carry around with us. And we really have to see those voices for what they are, so that we don't cut ourselves off from making beautiful connections like you, like Chris, like everything you're putting out there is what I stand for. And yeah, anyway, I don't know why I went into that space, but I feel like that's a really good point to end upon. Finding our authentic selves. We're going to have to battle through a lot of things that we think might be our authentic self. It might be my authentic self that I'm just a nerd who is socially awkward and can't mingle with the cool kids. That's actually not true. Like, when you get down to the heart of it, I'm a loving human being who cares about others, and I deserve to be in any room with anyone, right? 100%. So we have to work through those. We have to work through those big blocks. I think those are the things that can keep us back a lot.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that with me. And I'm going to go ahead and share with you. And I bet you would never think this in a million years, but I was nervous to talk to you. So there you go. We need to always remember that you never underestimate the other people. We're all humans. I like people are people are people. Yeah. Everybody poops. Everybody has insecurities. Everybody has their shit. I was not a cool girl in high school. I was petrified that first day at that thing, like, to meet all the people. Cause I was like, oh my God, I don't belong in this room. Everybody's so successful and everybody's, has all this going on. And I'm sure every single person was
everyone. Now that we all know each other, we're like, oh, we were so nervous. And we've all just formed such a beautiful, strong mastermind. But yeah, it's so good to remember that, to have that reality check when you're doing that. So
people do that with the media too. They get nervous. They think like, oh, the media are these like people that are on this pedestal and they're so much more important. They're humans.
Yep.
They're humans just like us. They're nervous. They need our content. They're nervous to talk to us too, right? They need us just as much as we need them. And really quick, one way like that I love to remember, like, that I'm worthy, because you're talking about like, am I worthy to talk to this girl? Am I worthy to be here? I think that all the time. Like, am I really good enough? two things. I think about, I have a thing that I teach, and it's the badass list. And I think that everybody needs to write a badass list. So everybody that's listening needs to do their badass list. And whenever you are feeling imposter syndrome, or like you are not enough, or you are not cool enough to do something, you do this beforehand. So you take out your phone. I like to do it on my phone, so I have it on hand all the time in your notepad. And we all have moments in our life where we were a complete and total badass. Like whether you were speaking on stage and you totally crushed it, or photographers, like you got the biggest wedding you've ever gotten in your life and you knocked it out of the park. Like you produced the most beautiful photos ever. You got or something like your child said, I love you for the first time. Or you battled an illness that you thought you never would, and you completely crushed it and came out so much healthier and better than ever before. All those badass moments, you write them all down on a huge list, and you just like dump list as many as humanly possible. Whenever you are feeling like an imposter, or you're not good enough, or you're not worthy of being somewhere, or you're not worthy of writing a post or doing a Facebook Live, or, you know, photographing a pretty big wedding that you got booked for, you read that badass list. And I want you to read it as if you were reading about somebody else that you are looking at in social media, and you're jealous of them, and you're comparing yourself to them. And oh my God, look at how cool this person is and all the unbelievable things they've done. And then remember that that person is you.
Yeah.
You can do all of those things. You can do anything. And that is who you truly are, that person on that list. Not the person, like all the noise that comes in and says, you're not good enough, you're not cool enough, you're not pretty enough. That's bullshit. The list, the badass list, that's the person that you are.
I love the badass list. I definitely think that that is key. And what it does is it just always trains your brain to help you step into your power and help you be in that space of worthiness, deserving, love, self-love, all of those good things. So we're going to give people some assignments. They're going to write their badass list. They're going to write down what their perfect day is. They're going to check out Unfair Advantage, which will be linked to in the video and the show notes. And they're going to really step into, I think, their authentic selves even more. Each day, each year is a space for us to share our stories, to help other people, to lift the vibration of the planet, to get super hippie about it, but that's what we're doing. And to just, you know, make the world a better place, and to make it a better place for them too, you know, not always about others, but for you to have your own wonderful, wonderful, perfect day. So thank you so much for chatting with us today. I love this interview. And
Darcy,
I'm excited to see you.
So fun. I could talk with you all day long.
I know. I feel like we could just like keep going. It's like, okay, let's tackle this and this. We'll have you back for sure. So
definitely.
Yay. All right. Well, thank you for everything. Thanks for joining us on the podcast today. And I will talk to you soon.
Thanks so much, Darcy.
You've been listening to the Play It Brave podcast. Love what you heard? Wonderful. You can shout about it in the reviews. I bet you know someone who needs a shot of self-belief. Then don't keep us a secret. If you've missed something crucial, we've got show notes for this and all past episodes over at darcybenincosa.com/Play It Brave. Thanks for tuning in, but don't forget, the world teaches you to play it safe. Stand up, stand out, and start playing it brave.